Thank you for bringing this up, and I've just got one question at the university level. Have we had anything go to court where a student has been expelled and then the student was found innocent? Has there been issues like that at all, where you've been out of school for 6 months or a year? Or what's the remedy there? Or
you know, maybe it's getting too technical, but as a recovering lawyer, found innocent. This is not a question of guilt in a criminal proceeding, which is defined as proof beyond a reasonable doubt into a moral certainty. This is a proceeding where it's determined that it is more likely than not that the individual accused of the offense did in fact commit the offense, the punishment for which can be a variety of disciplinary proceedings, including the most dramatic, which is to be expelled. That is the maximum that can occur. That is not a criminal proceeding. Innocence and guilt are terms that we use in a criminal court. More likely than not is a standard that we use in virtually all of our civil proceedings, where incarceration is not an option. Occasionally, we raise the standard a little bit higher to clear and convincing evidence. There are certain instances, like with fraud, where we have a slightly higher standard. But most cases involve a proof by a preponderance of the evidence. So it's like 51 to 49%. And juries are the ones that usually make those decisions. In disciplinary proceedings, they're very different. But they are no less serious to the extent that there are actions that can be taken to punish the behavior. So what we're looking at here are situations where we have a system of justice that is developed campus by campus wide. For example, we now have one of the areas where you can expel a student on a community college with great clarity is for plagiarism. Not for rape, but for plagiarism. And what we do is there is a proceeding and a procedure that is undertaken through a group of people who are trained by the school to be the disciplinary body. That's what we're talking about here. And the results, you know, for plagiarism, a student can be expelled. No more can happen under this proceeding if it's done in a college setting for disciplinary purposes to someone who is found to have committed an act of rape either on campus or while they're registered as a student on campus. So there are different standards. Do I think that those people should then go on and try to bring an action in proceed in criminal court? Absolutely, but that's not what this bill is about. So I hope that answer, it's not a question of innocent. It's a question of the evidence indicating that there should be action taken based upon the fact that by a preponderance of proof, and there could be proceedings where a person's asked to testify. There could be proceedings, and I suspect in most schools, although I don't know the answer, they do have to make their allegation under penalty of perjury. There are all sorts of things we do. The same thing with plagiarism. So we're not creating any unique system for this. We're incorporating that behavior into the existing system that we have.
May I add one quick thing? You could probably attest to this too. At UCs and CSUs and other private schools that receive federal funding, they do have cross-examination. They do interview witnesses. They do review documents. It is a full hearing after the investigator compiles all the information, and then the decision is made. It's not just one person's word against another. It does go through its own mini trial hearing, but at a lower standard than a criminal standard. So there are two different paths. Under Title IX, the schools are required to do this investigation and conduct this hearing. And so all we are asking with this bill is that community colleges go through the same procedures that are already in place at hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of four-year universities already, that is being used to protect the students that have been raped, sexually assaulted, harassed, discriminated against. So it is not just one person's word versus another. There is a procedure that has gone through to come to a decision.
Okay. All right, Senator Hancock.
I just wanted to thank Senator Jackson for bringing this bill forward and for the hearing that the Judiciary Committee had a few weeks ago on the prevalence of lack of knowledge of Title IX and the level, frankly, of sexual harassment that is going on in our high schools and our college campuses, more than I think many of us thought was still prevalent. So I think this is a very important bill and would like to move the bill.
Thank you. Would you like to close?
I think we've had a full debate. I appreciate the debate. This is a passionate subject. I think on behalf of the young women who are on our college campuses today and the young men who need guidance, we all need guidance on this issue. This will give clarity to the issue, and on that basis, I would urge your aye vote.
Thank you very much. Please call the roll.
Do pass to rules.
Oh, the pass the rules, right.
Lou,
Aye.
Lou, I. Huff, Block, Hancock, Hancock, I. Leyva, Leyva, I. Mendoza, Pan, Pan, I. Vidak, Vidak, I. 5.
You have 5 votes, sufficient for passage. We'll leave the roll open for absent members.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Madam
you very
Chair,
much.
members.
Senator Leno, you have item 10, SB 252. Good morning.
Good morning, committee members and Madam Chair, and thank you and your committee for the fine analysis and also for the suggested author's amendments, which I'm happy to accept both
Thank you.
of. So California, unfortunately, has the highest rate of homelessness for youth in the entire country at about 4%. National average is about 2%. That translates to about 300,000 homeless youth in our state. And to make matters even worse, there are about 2/3 of our counties that have absolutely no services for them. And of course, these youth are often victims of circumstances far beyond their own control. When you think of what can cause homelessness, there are many. No-cause eviction, someone's paying their rent, but the owner of the property has other plans for it. Ellis Act eviction, suddenly a family's homeless. Illness or death in a family, of course, can also cause homelessness. Inability to pay medical bills is still the leading cause of bankruptcy in California. Loss of a job or cut hours can also be a factor. Homophobia, transphobia chases, if not kicks, children out of their homes. Also, physical, emotional, sexual assault can lead children to leave their homes, along with untreated mental illness. These youth are also exposed to chronic health problems such as asthma and tuberculosis, diabetes, hepatitis, HIV and AIDS, and also mental health issues. These and other many challenges of homelessness can cause a youth not to finish high school. And in fact, 75% of homeless youth do not finish high school and do not get their high school diploma. 75%. A child without a high school diploma has a 7 times greater likelihood of finding his or her way into our criminal justice system. You'll probably not be surprised to know that 75% of our state inmates are without a high school diploma. So there's something we can do to help these youth, and that's what this bill is about. The bill will exempt homeless youth, and they will be responsible for being able to verify their homeless situation and their housing status, have it verified by homeless service providers. And once that is done, they would be exempt from the fees for the high school equivalency or proficiency exams, traditionally known as GED, though that is just a brand name. It's one of a number of different examinations that are available. The cost can range from $110 to $200, and for a homeless youth, this can just be an impossibility. So the point here, and the one that we want to make, is that a student's success in life should not be dependent upon his or her ability to pay for an examination. And yes, education and proof of it is still the key to success in life. For all those reasons, I would ask for your aye vote. We have number of people here today to speak in support of the bill. I would like to introduce John Bouders, who's with the Housing California, and then also Shahira Hyatt, who in many ways is the inspiration for the bill, and she's with California Homeless Youth Project.
Okay, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee, and the consultants who worked on this bill. My name is John Bouders. I'm the Policy Director at Housing California, and along with our co-sponsors, the California Coalition for Youth and the National Association for the Education of Homeless Children and Youth, we're proud to be with Senator Leno in support of SB 252. I'll be very brief in my remarks, just to provide a brief oversight on what the status of education for homeless youth is. Larkin Street, which is one of the state's largest homeless youth service providers, located in the Senator Leno's district, serves about 2,100 homeless and runaway youth every year. Over 1/3 of those youth did not have a high school diploma or equivalency at the time of intake. 29% of those youth report that they have either dropped out or were expelled from school. Only 14% of them were in school of any kind at that time of intake. And only 20% of all youth who did have a high school diploma were pursuing any type of advanced or higher education. We all want homeless youth to transition into successful and independent adulthood. When we think about the opportunities that we need to provide, none is more critical than education and job skill training. Runaway and homeless youth providers are nonprofit organizations that provide life skills and other services for youth, many of whom have left home to escape violence or mistreatment, and almost all of whom lack adult role models and mentors to help prepare them for independent living as adults. These providers should be dedicating their limited resources, time, and energy to helping students gain academic experience and competencies, prepare them for the proficiency or equivalency exams, and helping them attain computer literacy skills. The recent changes to the GED's format and its computerized administration make that all more important than ever. On behalf of the bill's sponsors and supporters and the many homeless youth here in California who would benefit in an upward life trajectory from the passage of this bill, we ask you to support it. I remain here to support the senator and answer any technical questions you or members of the committee might have.
Thank you very much. Please.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Shahira Hyatt. I'm the director of the California Homeless Youth Project. I thought today maybe I would just tell you a little bit about how this idea came about, since they've laid the groundwork so much for why it could be necessary here in California. So about a year or so ago, I took some young people to do a tour of WIND Youth Services, which is a program that works with homeless youth here in Sacramento. And they have a number of different programs. They have a drop-in center, they have a shelter, and they were showing us their education program. And the program manager at the time said, we have these great books for, proficiency exam preparation for the GED. We have great computers. We have staff that can help young people prepare for the GED. But what is difficult is being able to pay the cost of the GED test for all of the youth that we need to work with. And so in recognizing that this was a problem for a program here in Sacramento, as most programs who serve homeless youth are pretty cash-strapped, it sort of occurred to me that this might be a problem for programs across the state working with homeless youth. And an even greater problem for communities across the state that don't have programs that work with homeless youth, leaving the financial burden of paying for these GED or proficiency exam tests on the young person themselves. So in talking to providers across the state, found out that yes, this is an issue that's pretty consistent, and also in talking to, I was able to meet with about 12 or 13 currently homeless youth here in the area, and we brought up this idea, and most of them acknowledged, we don't have money to pay for this test. We don't even have money to pay for food on a day-to-day basis. This is a huge burden. And then I also reflected a little bit on my own experience as a teenager, being homeless in 15, 16, moving from couch to couch, and also having financial needs that made it difficult to go to high school 5 days a week. And I sort of realized, how much this actually resonated with my own experience as well. And so I know that I don't need to spend so much time to explain, statistics around how important it is to have a high school, diploma. But I was really grateful at that point to be able to take the California High School Proficiency Exam, kind of find an alternative path to graduate high school, be able to go on to community college and eventually get my graduate degree in social work. And of course, achieve some housing stability. So, I think that the research not only speaks to, I think, the merit of this, but also the experiences of providers and youth across the state. So again, I'm open to answering any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Others in support of the bill?
Hi, my name is Independence Taylor. My bad. My name is Independence Taylor, and I'm here to speak in support of SB 252. It's also my first time speaking here, so I'm a little nervous. I myself am a homeless youth here in Sacramento. About 8 years ago, my parents divorced, and for many years we struggled with finding stable housing. I've been homeless more than once growing up, but since this past June, my mom and me and my little brother and little sister have found ourselves without any options to turn to besides shelter programming. I stayed previously at Wind Youth Shelter, but for the past month I've been living on the street with other youth due to varying familial circumstances, and the rest of my family is staying in a motel shelter program right now. I personally have taken the proficiency exam twice and failed because I have a math learning disability, but I was very close and only missed by a few questions in the math sections. But hey, third time's a charm, except that I ran out of resources to pay for it. I paid for the first 2 tries with money my family had pooled together in support of me trying to get an education because I had dropped out during that year I tried to take the test. After trying twice, I decided to just roll myself back into public schooling. I enrolled in a community college, a continuation school in Rancho Cordova. Here I was able to successfully earn all the credits I needed to graduate on time, and my graduation date is now May 27th. Other youth facing homelessness aren't so lucky as me right with education though. Many of the youth I've met in the shelter or on the street don't have the resources to pay for the proficiency exam or a GED, and many don't try to access those tests because just the thought of how expensive they are turns them away. Many of the youth I have been sleeping outside with never had the chance to complete high school or equivalent because of their homelessness. This bill would be a huge game changer for many homeless youth and would open up many doors and opportunities that would help them to get off the street as it's helping me. And I know education is important. It will help me to continue my education into community college and get my degree and off the streets as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Barrett Snyder on behalf of the San Francisco Unified School District. We're in the process of taking positions on the bill, but this bill definitely fits within the scope of things we supported in the past. So I want to project we'll probably have a very enthusiastic support on the bill. One issue we do want to work out with the author is how the funding gets either diffused into the system or whether the state picks up the cost. But either way, we think that this is a great bill. Hope you'll support it today. And also on behalf of the California Continuation Education Association, representing the continuation schools in the state, we're also in support. Thanks.
Thank you. Others in support, please come and fill the chairs up here.
Hi, my name is Nikki Jones, and I'm a street outreach worker with Wind Youth Services, which, as Shahara mentioned, is a local Sacramento organization serving youth experiencing homelessness. And, you know, we see the struggle every day. The struggle is very real, and solutions to this housing crisis that we're in here in Sacramento can often seem elusive, and truly they are. There are so many contributing factors, but I think one thing that we can all agree on is that education is truly where our opportunity lies. It's our investment in these young people that is going to make solutions to these problems. We have to prioritize investment in humans as what is necessary to truly invigorate California and to move beyond this housing crisis.
Thank you.
My name is Katie Durbin, and I'm a homeless youth struggling to get off the streets of Sacramento. Something that stands in the way of that, like a stone wall, though, is before I became homeless, I was not able to finish high school. I actually only have 40 credits left, but I have no way of getting back in. And because I lack a diploma, many possible employers refuse to even look my way. So I looked into getting a GED or taking the CHISP, and before I even really was able to get started with that, I found out that you have to pay for it, and it can be between $100 to $200. And that's astronomically high for someone like me who barely scrapes together enough to even get food every day. I'd go hungry a lot of nights, and this is why I and many of the homeless youth that I know need SB 252, because without it, many of us may never be able to get a job and get off the streets. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Frank Mecca, Executive Director of CWDA. For reasons so eloquently already stated by the prior witnesses, California's 58 Human Services Directors enthusiastically support this bill.
Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Paul Curtis, Executive Director with the California Coalition for Youth. On behalf of all of our members across the state that serve runaway and homeless youth providers, urge your strong support of this bill.
Thank you. And I think we have one more.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I'm Ron Rapp. I am with the California Federation of Teachers, and we enthusiastically support this bill. I am astounded by the growing number of homeless youth in this country. I was speaking to one of our members over the weekend, and he said 30% of his high school students are homeless. This will help to remove one of the barriers for these students to get a high school diploma and to be successful in their careers. So we strongly recommend an aye vote on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Others in support of the bill? Is there anyone that's opposed to the bill? Seeing none. Questions from members? Senator Leyva.
I just want to thank Senator Leno for bringing this bill forward. It is a small step in the definite right direction. SD 20 unfortunately has the highest population of homeless students, and this is one thing we can do to help them. Thank you.
Senator Hancock.
I would move the bill as amended.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? I, too, am in support of the bill. I am just surprised, constantly surprised about how many young people are on our streets. And we haven't quite solved as to who's going to pick up the tab, but I guess you're going to go to appropriations to figure this out, correct?
Yes, though there are, in addition to the Department of Education,
yes,
which provides the proficiency exam,
yes,
the 3 different equivalency exams, we contract with 3 different providers. I understand 2 of them are for-profit, 1 not-for-profit. I believe the not-for-profit may be coming publicly to support the bill. In any case, we're the ones doing the contracting, so they're getting a large contract.
Correct.
To test hundreds of thousands of youth. This would be a very small additional part of the contract that we'd be offering to them. They can either take it or leave it, but we don't believe that there would be anyone who would back away from it as a result. So we don't think, and we'll deal with this in appropriations, that there will be any cost pressures to the general fund.
I think the only other question came on page 4 of the analysis about verification.
Yes.
Yes, do you want to expand about that?
At the committee's suggestion, we are taking the amendment as authored, which would delete the list of those allowed to verify a youth as homeless and instead just simply cross-reference the health and safety code definition of homeless service providers.
Okay, all right. That's sufficient?
And then if I may just lastly, in my close, thank our co-sponsors, and that would be the National Association for the Education of Homeless Children and Youth, along with California Coalition for Youth and also Housing California.
Great, thank you.
I vote.
The bill has been moved. No further questions or comments. We'll call the roll.
Do pass as amended to appropriations. Lou?
Aye.
Lou, aye. Huff? Aye. Huff, aye. Block? Hancock?
Aye.
Hancock, aye. Leyva? Aye. Leyva, aye. Mendoza? Pan?
Aye.
Pan, aye. Vidak?
Aye.
Vidak, aye.
You have 6 votes, sufficient for passage. We'll keep the roll open for absent members.
Thank you all.
Thank you. We have Senator Pavley, who has item 2.
SB 62.
SB 62. This has been a passion for Senator Pavley for a long time. Let's get those teachers.
Third time's a charm on this one.
Third time's a charm.
It always does very well in your committee. It's
Right.
that pesky
It's the risk.
appropriations.
Right.
You're smiling, Mr. Vidak. This is good. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is a passion of mine as a teacher of 28 years in the California public school system for Northern California and 25 down in Southern California. And my husband just retired after 31 years. Talking about how we find quality teachers in the future is really critically important, and it's gotten to be more problematic as the years gone on. So we know, or maybe I'm biased, I think the heart and soul of any classroom is a quality teacher. You can buy all the things you want, iPads, you bring it on. That's not going to make the difference. It's a teacher who's committed to those students and working with their parents and their colleagues on campus that can make a real difference in children's lives, admittedly along with quality preschool and other support areas. So let's look at the problem with how to recruit new quality teachers into California's public school system. The amount of people going into teacher preparation classes, which are primarily at our CSU system, I'm a graduate of Fresno State, has dropped by nearly 74%. Just 12 years ago, there were 77,000 students enrolled. Today, I need my glasses, 19,000 enrolled. At Cal State Northridge, which was the campus right adjacent to my district, the amount of people going into the teacher credentialing program has dropped by half. What are the reasons? There's a variety of reasons, as we know. We do know that during the recession, when we cut back, we increased how many students per classroom. We were required to lay off teachers. Many of those teachers were younger and didn't go back into the public school system. Once they left, they moved on. We have another problem. The baby boomers are retiring. My generation is retiring in droves. People in their 50s or early 60s now will be retiring. About a third of the California teaching population falls into this group. So what are the other variables out there other than letting younger teachers go who perhaps could have devoted 30 years of their life to teaching? There's another factor, in my opinion, and that's student loans. Talking to many people, many students are coming out of our CSU system with between $30,000 to $40,000 in student loan debt. You're required now as a California teacher to go at 5 years. Your 5th year is your student teaching and preparation program. That is expensive, especially if you owe $35,000 or $40,000. Why would you go an additional year when your starting pay is $40,000 to $45,000? That's a starting pay for 5 years of college to attract a teacher into our schools. So there are many factors there, and this is not just anecdotal evidence. There's information. Years ago, California spent $40 million or more a year in loan assumption or loan forgiveness programs that really made a difference. And the way those worked is sort of built on what this bill is talking about, is looking back, were they successful? There's people here that can, and you've done the facts and information in your report here that you prepared for this committee. They got teachers to teach in what we call perhaps disadvantaged communities or underperforming schools. It got them perhaps not to just go to the suburbs and teach in those areas, but actually make a difference where kids really need that quality of teacher, someone committed to it. And I would say to you that if you had your student loan forgiveness done, you may attract someone that hadn't thought about going into teaching. If you were going to go a 5th year, you might say, you know, if that student loan is paid off, I can be a teacher. I can bring home $3,500 a month and not have to worry about that $1,000 a month for 20 years pay off in my student loan. I can afford to do this. This is really a chance and an opportunity to, again, re-incentivize people going into teaching because of those variety of factors that are out there. We're in a crisis. Department of Education can articulate very clearly what areas, specific subject matters are in severe straits, whether it's special education or some of the STEM kind of classes, or surprisingly enough, a lot of the elementary school programs, especially in those most struggling school districts, we're not doing a very good job. Another bit of information is, in addition to forgiving your student loan assumption, and it would be paid off for a period of about 4 years or so, most teachers who aren't qualified to be teachers sort of get themselves out of the classroom by about year 2, 3, or 4. They know this is not fit for them. If a teacher's there for 4 or maybe 5 years, you probably are in it for the long run. You're probably a teacher for 30 years. These are your career teachers. So this is critically important that we look at what our failure is in attracting quality teachers. I think the case can be made very clearly. We need to do something. The Apple program was proven successful in the past. It's a loan forgiveness program. Requires a really thorough evaluation and putting young teachers in these classrooms will make them committed not only to that school for perhaps a lifetime of teaching. We can turn around and get more college students excited about being a teacher if they didn't have to worry about that, especially that last year of costs and added to their student loan debt. The other is the governor's fellowship program, teacher fellowship. That was implemented for a while. I sort of like that one. That's why there's two options in this bill. The advantage of the governor's scholarship program that was done, I think it was by former State Senator Gary Hart several years ago, was they would pay essentially for that fifth year of teaching, or maybe the fourth and fifth year. It was a straight up grant in exchange for you committing to teaching. They've done the audits. It's been proven successful. You pay $20,000 to cover those 2 years. In exchange, you teach in an underserved community as defined by a variety of factors. And those teachers, you could really attract some really high-quality people into the classroom. The advantage to this one is it can go up and down in one-term time funding with our state budget problems, so these are perhaps the good years for a couple of years. Let's try that program, or the Apple program. So there's two opportunities, programs that have proven successful in attracting teachers into the classroom, teachers that will generally stay beyond those 2 or 3 years, but be committed to this profession for their career. So ask for your aye vote.
Thank you very much. Those in support of the bill.
Madam Chair, Debbie Look on behalf of State Superintendent of Instruction, Tom Torlakson, and we're here, the superintendent is very pleased to sponsor this very important bill. SB 62, as Senator Pavley mentioned, would reinstate two very successful teacher recruitment programs, the Apple program and the Governor's Teaching Fellowship. The superintendent believes that every child deserves a great teacher in their classroom. And unfortunately, our ability to provide that is being hampered by the current shortage of individuals entering the profession. At the peak in 2003 and 2003-04, more than 27,000 new preliminary teaching credentials were issued by the CTC. By the 2009-10 school year, only 16,000 credentials were issued, a drop of 40%. Similarly, as Senator Pavley mentioned, enrollment in teacher preparation programs declined by more than 50% from 2001 to 2010. And coupled with the pending retirement of a large percentage of our current teaching workforce, we're facing a severe crisis. Certain subject areas are particularly affected, including math, science, and special education. However, the current year list of shortage areas was expanded to include English, social studies, computer education, as well as elementary teachers who are teaching multiple subjects in their classroom. Recruiting strong candidates is an effective way to address these shortages. Both the Apple and the Governor's Fellowship Program prioritize strong candidates willing to teach at high-needs schools with added incentives to teach in subject areas of particular shortage. The superintendent urges your aye vote on SB 62 to assist in the statewide efforts to recruit a diverse pool of capable educators to teach in areas of shortage at high-needs schools. Thank you, and I have with me Carrie Roberts, the Director of Professional Learning at Department, if we have any questions.
Okay, fine. Others in support?
Yes. Good morning, Madam Chair and members. I'm Isabel Garcia. On behalf of the California Teachers Association, we strongly support the top policy priorities in this bill to incentivize talented undergraduate students to have the financial aid and the means to become professional educators. It worked for me. I was proud to be a teacher for nearly 10 years, and the financial aid is what made the difference. Teachers matter, and we believe this bill will help ensure that our 6.2 million students have a qualified, caring, and committed teacher that they deserve, and which is critical to the successful implementation of the Common Core college and career readiness academic standards going forward. We want to thank the author for her steadfast leadership to address the teacher shortages in California, and we respectfully ask for your support.
Thank you. Others in support?
Salvia Senor with the Association of California School Administrators, and don't have a formal position yet, but we can assure you that we're going to be in strong support of this bill and its mission. I wanted to stress to the committee that not only are school districts faced with the challenges of identifying teachers for these particular subject areas, today school districts are struggling just with substitutes. The substitute shortage is a crisis in the state. So to the extent that we can, in fact, encourage individuals to pursue this profession, it's extremely important for our school districts and our students.
Thank you. Others in support?
Good morning, Sarah Lillis with Ed Voice, and we are very supportive of the overall vision of this bill, and we appreciate the Senator's leadership and persistence on sort of bringing back these important levers for attracting and recruiting teachers. 2 points that we do hope we can continue to work on. One was raised by the staff analysis of the being a little premature in removing the API information until we have a new accountability system in place, and we hope to continue to talk about that. The other piece is we appreciate the criteria as related to the effectiveness of the candidates, but would love to look a little bit if there's a way to also look at the effectiveness of the programs that these candidates are going into as we move forward. But we're very supportive and appreciate the Senator's leadership. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Angela Williams, California Student Aid Commission. The commission does not have a formal position on the bill, but clearly have been in support of the Apple program in the past and looking forward to working with the author.
Okay. Good morning, Nicole Munoz Murillo with the California State University. We also do not have a position on the bill yet, but we have been providing technical expertise to the Senator and appreciate her working with us. As the largest educator of teachers in the state, many of our students have benefited from the Apple program, and they have really appreciated that. There's obviously a clear need to recruit teachers to the profession, and at the same time, we need to make sure that there's funding to make sure that we can admit all those students. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Kendra Harris with the California Federation of Teachers in Support.
Thank you. Any others in support? Is there any opposition to the bill? Seeing none, are there any questions from members? Senator Huff, Senator Pan. Oh, okay, Senator Huff.
Senator Bradley, would you care to describe your joint authors on this bill?
I would. I have an amazing, two amazing joint authors. Senator Huff.
We just wanted to underscore that every now and then Pavley and Huff can come together on something. It is a very worthy
We
bill.
promised sometime in our lives we would work on a bill together.
Yes, we finally found it. Thank you for bringing this
climate
forward.
change bill.
Yeah, that'll be some other lifetime.
Okay, Senator Pan and then Senator Hancock.
Well, actually, with that, I want to move the bill.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
Senator Hancock.
Yeah, I was also going to move the bill, but in addition to that, I would like to be added as a co-author when there's an opportunity.
I'd love to do that.
Senator Pavley, and I do hope the third time is the charm. We really have to recognize the incredibly hard, creative, professional work that teachers do every day. And personally, I've had the experience several times of saying to some brilliant young person that I've been working with, why don't you become a teacher? And the answer I get back is, are you kidding? I could never afford to buy a house. And we shouldn't give people those options. So it is bipartisan. I hope you survive the appropriations process. And I'd be delighted to vote for it and would like to be added.
I'm determined to survive the appropriations process.
Good for you. Yes, good for you. There are suggested technical and authors amendments?
Absolutely, accept them as authors amendments, both my own and yours as well.
Okay.
And this sort of narrows, if you will. I want to point out one thing I really like about this bill. I'm biased, of course. but it looks at school sites, not school districts for the determining factor, because we certainly know under the local control funding formula, you can have just as many disadvantaged children in a high-need school site, regardless of what district they're in. Those kids need access to a quality teacher as much as someone who lives across the boundary line. So it's more site-specific than just district-specific.
Great. Okay, all right. With that, the bill has been moved. No other questions? Let's call the roll.
Do pass as amended? To appropriations, Lou?
Aye.
Lou, aye. Huff? Huff, aye. Block? Hancock?
Aye.
Hancock, aye. Leyva? Aye. Leyva, aye. Mendoza? Pan? Aye. Pan, aye. Vidak? Aye. Vidak, aye.
You have 6 votes, sufficient for passage. We'll keep the roll open for absent members.
Thank you to my joint author and the sponsor of the bill.
Thank you. Okay.